What's the one thing you regret doing for your wedding day? Getting a friend to video. It's crap. I remember when my dad got married to my stepmom, and I was around 12 or 13 years old. At the time, I had a weird obsession with photo and video cameras and spent a fair amount of time fiddling with them. My dad handed me the camera and I went around taking candid videos of people at their tables. No interviews because I'm ducking 12-inch eye as hell. Later on my dad took the camera from my hands and gave it to my stepmom's brother to do interviews and talk to people at the wedding. For the rest of the remaining tape, he recorded video interviews of his own wife, daughter, and son. My dad actually pulled me aside after the wedding to tell me he regretted not letting me hold onto the camera because I actually got some good footage of everyone at the wedding. To be completely fair, I understand why my dad trusted a full-grown adult over his preteen son to take a video of an extremely important occasion. My parents had a camera set up in the corner of the room to record the reception party. Steady camera is good, but that 90s video quality, it looks like security footage, which is not at all heartwarming to watch. I'd take the shy kid spectator footage tbh. Not exactly a regret, but just a reminder to keep things in perspective. Looking at my grandmother's wedding photos, she pointed out her bridesmaids wearing matching hats. She remembered these hats were important and there was some big to do about them. For the life of her, she couldn't remember what exactly, and you certainly couldn't tell from the pictures. Just remember that when you're having heated debates over the correct shade of blue for the napkins. A reception line. I got talked into it. I didn't want to do it but felt pressured. All I did for 3/4 of my reception was stand and say hello to people. It was miserable and took a lot of the fun out of the day. Fucking A. My wife's family insisted on it, and I was pretty ambivalent. So I went with it. By the time we got done with it, the food was all cold. Guests had started to leave, etc. Not ducking worth it. Years later, we went to one where everyone went in, ate dinner, and then the bride and groom went table to table. That was why better. We did the latter. Except we didn't go from table to table. Goddamn antisocial. I think the guests were probably happy about being in and out of the wedding so quickly though. We also didn't do alcohol, so prolonging the wedding would just been weird. Seems like most people's regret can be drilled down into doing what their parents wanted them to do. Letting my ex-mill dictate pretty much everything. It stopped being our wedding and became her wedding, and she is crazy. The whole wedding was no longer focused on my wife and I, but my Miel handing my wife off to me, which is really ironic because after that moment Miel became even more controlling. Some things she did. She had a mommy-daughter dance, made an 30-minute long speech about raising my wife, including playing several inappropriate baby videos, made a toast to herself, cut the cake with my wife, tossed the bouquet herself, tried to outcast my small family, party of 6, to the corner, departed the wedding in our limo with us. This is the weirdest one. The bridal lingerie literally said "Mom is girl." The wedding was ruined for me. The worst part? It set a precedent that my Miel can do whatever she wanted in our relationship and my wife would always choose her side. This eventually caused a split after Miel spanked the hell out of my daughter and my wife took her side. It just kept getting worse with each bullet point. Letting the photographer dictate where we should be for the entire night. Going back, I would have told him do all the photo poses you want in the first hour, then leave us alone. Also would have had someone walk around with us when we said hi to each table to help us get out of drawn out conversations to make it go faster. Oh, that's a good one. About having someone break up the conversation at tables to move you along. As someone who worked in a position that did this during weddings, our couples greatly appreciated it, especially during cocktail hour. We would have the couples come up with signals that they were ready to move on, or we used our discretion if their time was being monopolized during a conversation. Wearing heels. Also letting my sister-in-law convince me to stay at her house the night before instead of a hotel. I slept on a tiny, uncomfortable futon with my giant future husband and slept maybe an hour. Yes. Exclamation mark. Exclamation mark. My wife's grandma was stunned she was spending the night before at our place and kept trying to get her to come sleep at her grandma's house on the couch, and my wife shot that down quick. Slept in our bed the night before and got a good night's rest before a long ass day. I regret not hiring a DJ. It's not only music. They help with the flow of the wedding. Flower toss. First dance. Money dance. Whatever you want. We cut corners where we could, and that was one I regret. I wrote this in another comment. But a good DJ is important. A professional DJ know how to read the crowd and set the mood. You can have a playlist and try running it from a phone. But any DJ knows that no matter how you plan in advance how the audience will react, it never goes that way, and you have to quickly switch it up. Letting a homeless guy into our reception venue to use the restroom. Half hour later, he's still in there. A few of my guests jimmied the door open and found him passed out on heroin. We had a homeless guy come into our wedding and was let in by the uppity wedding planner because he was wearing a Jack Daniels shirt, and our minister family is named Jack Daniels. True story. He signed our wedding book "Wish I Was Getting Married" and then stole my bridesmaid's wallet and the aforementioned planner's car. So, you know, a memorable day! Exclamation mark. I feel bad for your bridesmaid, but damn, that planner got some intense karma. Well, we could have had the wedding in fall 2019, but my wife wanted more time to make sure everything was perfect. So we decided to have it in April 2020. What's the worst that could happen? It's not like the whole world is going to stop in the spring. Apostrophe. To shreds. You say, apostrophe. My husband and I went off alone to be married in the woods. No regrets on that. But I regret not going further off trail for the actual vow exchange. A lady on horseback yelled at me that the white thing on your head is scaring my horse. That was the universe giving you a golden opportunity to tell someone fuck you and the horse you rode in on in perfect context. In all honesty, I regret dancing so much. We danced so much. We forgot to go around to individually thank everyone for coming. They all came to us on the dance floor to say hello. 10/10 still dancing. I was a guest at a wedding where the bride and groom were glued to the dance floor, and I was so happy they were having fun and enjoying their day. Weddings are so often about what you're supposed to do, when really it should be your day to celebrate as you see fit. I agree. I dislike the idea that the couple must go from table to table. Like, I feel uncomfortable talking with people like that in general. I'm an introvert. Please don't make me do that. Hiring a shitty photographer. At the end of the day, your photos are the only tangible thing you pay for. We had a family friend do it as a gift to us. They aren't terrible, but damn do I wish we had some ones with poses that don't look so forced and not from the 1880s. I should have made my wife eat her meal. We sat at the table alone and chatted while everyone else was eating, and she said she wasn't very hungry after eating like 1/4 of her plate. Turns out that half hour was the only 30 minutes of the day she wasn't hungry. I finally went downstairs and got her a plate of hors d'oeuvres after her trying to politely sneak down for 2 hours. They spirited her food away some point after dinner, and she still regrets not getting to eat the great food we picked out. Yes, same happened to me. Dang efficient catering workers. I turned my back for a second and my plates kept disappearing. I loved our baker, and I was excited for months about the cake, only to get one bite of it on the day. Open bracket. Tiny wedding in a beautiful state park. I forgot the rings in the car and my dad was kind enough to jog back and get them. That's the only regret I have for that day. I first read that a skate park. Picking the longest song ever for a first dance. I used to DJ weddings. TBH, the DJ should have made sure they were on the same page with you about how to handle the first dance. I would typically fade out the music after about 1.5 to 2 minutes. I'd try to do so at the end of a chorus or something similar, since the bride and groom usually do not have a full song's worth of dancing planned out. That's good advice for his next wedding or weddings. Getting separated from my wife while at the wedding. She went to the bathroom and then got swarmed by friends and family and she disappeared what seemed like hours. Also, in general getting pulled away from each other when I would get a drink or talk to someone. The reason I regret it is because my wife looked so absolutely stunning that day and I just wanted to look at her the entire time. My wife is still hot, but something about that dress. This is one of the most romantic comments on this post. 3. Doing the garter throw. It's just weird. I was once at a wedding where a woman accidentally elbowed her own daughter in the face trying to catch the bouquet. It was pretty funny. I attended 2 weddings with my future wife as her boyfriend. In both cases a garter was meant for someone else, but I grabbed it anyhow. One of those had her family in attendance and the shocked look on her father's face was priceless. When it came time for me to throw the garter, the only unmarried males in attendance were my nephews who were hopefully at least a decade from that kind of thing. Close bracket. Not eloping. Our wedding was relatively small and inexpensive, less than 10k, less than 60 guests, but we could have spent that money on a sweet beach elopement and doubled up our honeymoon to be 2 weeks. I also regret not eloping, and I'm relieved to see others do too. Neither of us was really into having a wedding, but we caved to family pressure and FOMO. Parts of it were fun, but lots were awkward and stressful, and I think it was obvious that our hearts weren't in it. Stuffing cake in my wife's face. No exaggeration. I regret it to this day. One of the traits of a successful marriage is to protect your spouse with words, with your actions. Protect in this case has the meaning of upholding their dignity, their honor, etc. Shoving cake in their face is not doing any of that, and it's very public. Don't do it. Plus it messed with her makeup. I really wish I hadn't. Open bracket. Oh man. I'm glad you regret it at least. Makeup is so $$. Exclamation mark. Also it's just humiliating to have your new husband do that to you. One of my bosses did that to his new wife, who specifically told him not to, and she started crying and hit him. It was an awkward moment. Oh, that must have been really weird. As it turned out, getting married. Hey, you stole my comment. Runner up was forgetting to ask my mom ahead of time to show up sober. I would move speeches to before dinner is served. People are quicker when they're hungry and not drunk yet. I personally wouldn't bother with the first dance. We are not dancers. It was really ducking awkward. The one thing I would recommend to everyone is having party bombs, like mini indoor firework, and inside there's silly stuff to play with. We had groups of people from different places who didn't know each other. It was a brilliant icebreaker and so much fun. Interesting how quite a few say they regret not eloping, but so far nobody said they regret doing it. My husband and I wanted to elope, but were feeling the pressure to do something with family. COVID came around and we couldn't fly back to our home country, so we got to do the national park elopement we always wanted. My only regret was actually not having my mom and dad there, as the border is still closed, so they couldn't come. But overall very happy we didn't cave to a normal wedding earlier. Posing for pictures. Ended up putting so much energy into getting perfect pics we didn't spend time in the moment. Just ask your photographer to do candid shots, only and focus on enjoying the day. Your pics will be great, whether you try hard to have perfect photos or not, and you won't look at the album nearly as often as you might think. We couldn't afford a wedding photographer at the time of the wedding, so we had candid photos from some nice friends. Then about a year later we had immaculate wedding photos, and got all dressed up and tramped out into the woods with a professional. It really turned out great and so much fun. Going into labor. Playing beat the clock were we? Oh, completely. I regret not turning around to watch my wife walk down the aisle. It was an outdoor wedding with no music, and I was told to stare at the nearby ruins, so I didn't accidentally see my wife as she made her way to the back of where we had the ceremony, with no cue. I had no idea when to turn until she tapped me on the shoulder and giggled a small hi. Her dress was amazing, and the ceremony went well amidst a surprise downpour, 2 hours earlier than expected. But I really wish I had been able to watch her walk the aisle. I completely misread my spouse's playfulness and shoved cake into her face, going way up her nose. A decade later I can still hear the groans of disappointment from everyone nearby. I didn't do this because my dad gave me the advice not to. I'm glad I didn't. Not losing the 20 pounds I was supposed to lose. Who felt that one? Getting married in a church. It was okay and didn't ruin our day at all. Both of our parents are Catholic, and it just made everything easier to make our parents happy. But it got weird when they asked us to promise to have children and we were like no. We had a ceremony that meant nothing to us for our parents and a reception for us after. Wait, are you supposed to promise to have children in Catholic wedding ceremonies or something? Sort of. Roman Catholic doctrine says you need to be open to life. I.e. okay having kids if it happens. Their doctrine also says not to have abortions or use contraception. They also say that if your spouse isn't okay with this when you get married, it's grounds to annul the marriage if you want to, because they think it's so important. They make both spouses promise that, yes, they're open to life. Apostrophe. Spending 10,000 on other people to get drunk. That's why I try to drink as much as I can, so the bride and groom gets their money's worth. For me, I'm not drunk. I'm being economical. Hey PSSST. Please subscribe and like.